What is up, fans? Welcome to another edition of the PG Pitt Show brought to you by FanDuel. I'm Stephen Thompson. That's Abby Schnable. We cover Pitt athletics for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I'm coming to you from the Petersen Events Center, where I just watched the Panthers fall to NC State 81-72. Panthers are 1-6 in ACC play, and a lot of the reasons why Pitt lost this game you're probably familiar with. They missed another ton of layups. I believe they were 8 for 20 shooting layups tonight. 11 of 25 from the free throw line over the past two games, and it has a combined scoring margin of minus 12. They have left 80 unrealized points on the floor in the form of missed layups or missed free throws. And, Abby, in lieu of maybe talking about some of the obvious reasons why Pitt lost this game, I think we've got to talk about what Jeff Capel said after the game. I'm not in his head. I can't tell you what's going through his head, but a lot of what he said in the post-game press conference, specific to the free throw shooting and the layups, was that he doesn't really have answers. It was as maybe resigned to the nature of this team, the reality of this team, as he was, or as I've seen him so far this year. He seemed pretty down, unsurprisingly.
Yeah, I think it was of note that he was asked about free throws multiple times in that press conference. But when he said that there's just nothing he can do, it's a little deflating in a way. To one side of it, he is correct in the fact that he can run as many free throw drills as they need, which it seems like they're doing. But it's a matter of actually making them in the game. And so I get it from, he can't really do anything from the mechanical aspect of things, but there's also, figuring out ways to encourage your players when they are in a really bad slump. And then when you think about the layups, he was talking about how it seems that the players are prioritizing getting contact to get to the free throw line and to cause a foul rather than, actually going for the layup. And that's it's evident. There are a lot of times where you see guys, acting like they should have been fouled or they should have gotten a foul. And I don't understand that logic there, especially because of how poor they have been from the free throw line. Other than DeMarco Minor, who was the only player today for Pitt to make both of their free throws, and that was when there was 1 minute left in the game. It's just it's interesting because then you watch, Roman Salepa, who continues to be a bright spot on this team. He's battling and he's getting a majority of his layups. And it's just if some of that intensity, if Jeff Capel could take some of Roman Salepa's intensity and get that out of some of these other guys, maybe some of those layups aren't, missed, especially because so many of them shouldn't be. It's not like every single time they're down there trying for a layup that there's three guys on them. And Roman Salepa's making his layups when there are three guys on him. So it's kind of frustrating to see the lack of intensity from player to player.
I think the thing that, if I were a Pitt fan, that would maybe concern me more than the fact that they are missing all of these layups is when Jeff Capel admits to a certain level of powerlessness over it, right? That just the kind of resignation to the fact of the matter, placing the responsibility at the feet of the players, whether he's right or wrong. And I don't think he's incorrect to say that, the players need to kind of step up and have the confidence to make their free throws, to be able to do it when the lights come on, to battle through contact, to, play through a lot of what's going wrong. It's not whether he's right or wrong, in my opinion. I think the more concerning thing is that he doesn't have answers for it, right? And he is admitting to not having answers for it. That's a problem. Everything in this program falls at his feet. The wins, the losses, he will get credit and blame for everything. And so for your head coach to admit a certain level of powerlessness over the issues that this team is having, that leads you down a road that I think if you're Jeff Capel, you don't want to go down, which is, okay, why are you our coach again? Right? That's plainly what it is. If you don't have answers for it, if you don't have, ways for you to help this team improve, then what reason does Pitt have to keep you around as head coach, right? That's the fact of the matter. I'm not, making an argument one way or another as to, Pitt should or shouldn't for Jeff Capel. But if you're a head coach, you ultimately have responsibility for everything that happens in the program. And so you cannot admit to that kind of powerlessness. You can't throw everything at the feet of the players because these are also the players that you recruited at the end of the day.
Yeah, you got to take some ownership there for sure. Or maybe if you're going to speak on it at all, don't blame it on the players. Like, take some ownership, or just don't, like, find a vaguer way to answer, I guess, because at this point it's just creating a lot of distrust, not only between fans and Jeff Capel, but like you said, like, what's the administration thinking? And then what are the players thinking too when they hear their coach just go and say it? And I know we get, Barry Dunning, Roman Salepa today, who are like, yeah, it is on us. And to an extent it is, but how defeating is that to hear your coach say that over and over again, when this has been a common thing that's been talked about even in non-conference season, where Jeff Capel is like, they need to step up. I don't have answers. Like, this might have been the most, prevalent moment of him directly saying, but he's essentially been saying this since, way back in November. And I can't imagine that that's, encouraging a lot of players to, step up in these moments, especially when it is just defeating, when you're having a game after a game, a loss after a loss. And I thought it was interesting that later Jeff Capel talked about, fan pressure and social media and the guys seeing that. And it's like, yeah, the guys are seeing that, but they're also seeing you sit there and say, it's on you guys. It's you need to step up. When, yes, maybe, again, like we said, like, there's not really much he can do mechanically to help them do the free throws. He can't take the shots, but there's some disconnect between, him encouraging the guys to step up and then them actually not, making the free throws, making the layups, because it's not like it's improving little by little. I mean, I think we've seen improvement from Roman Salepa, but I think that's the only player we've really seen the improvement from. So what is he doing with a Roman that's getting Roman to do it, but not everyone else? And I think that's where, like you said, the biggest issue is it just doesn't seem like he has any faith, which is really difficult to get behind.
Yeah, whether it's he doesn't have faith, he doesn't have answers, none of it is good. And I want to go back to something that you alluded to in a moment ago, but really the thrust, the vast majority of Jeff Capel's post-game press conference, he spent talking about the heckling that he got at the end of the game. As NC State started to pull away, there were some individuals in the stands who started to, say some fire Jeff Capel, go home, Jeff, Jeff, you're stealing money, things like that. And, given the nature of his tenure here, Jeff Capel is not unfamiliar with cheers like that. He's been booed before, but he spent a lot of this press conference also asking for fans to not boo, not to boo at least the players. I think he knows that, he is not, above criticism. He expects, honestly, to be booed. That's even something that he said at a certain point. He said, as they were preparing for this game, he told his players, you should expect to be booed if we go down, right? Like, the fans are going to react that way. That's just kind of the nature of it. But it's just part of that press conference was him asking for a different reaction from the fans. And it's one of those things that again, he seems resigned to the situation, right? It was not a lot of accepting responsibility. It was a lot of, I need other folks to help me move this thing along. Comments about fan support, comments about the way fans behave at games, or how they react to certain losses. I just don't think that gains you any ground. I don't think that helps your situation. I understand there might be a level of frustration internally. Obviously, there's frustration externally, but it is just one of those moments where it makes you feel like there is not a lot of reason to expect progress to be made down the rest of the season. It was, I don't know if sad is the right word, but it just felt like a lot of air was taken out of the room, right? It feels like a lot of air has been taken out of this program, and it does feel like Jeff Capel is maybe running out of energy in addition to answers for how to make this team better.
Yeah, his preach for empathy, I mean, I get it. And I think he has a unique perspective that he talked about in the fact that he was a coach's son and he can't fathom doing that himself. But, there's a lot of frustration for Pitt fans, and there has been since the 2023 season, in which there just haven't been significant results. And, maybe you can take out the 2024 season because they probably should have gotten into the field. But, there were a lot of bid stealers that year. But, the past two seasons have been really, really frustrating. And so if I'm a Pitt fan, I wouldn't boo personally, but I don't see why they wouldn't at this point. You're spending, like he said this, you're spending money, you want a good product, and they're not putting out a good product. And I think it comes down to, just the environment that we're in college sports. I think when Jeff Capel was more of a fan, maybe that was taboo, but it's just not anymore. You're seeing it more and more and more. And yeah, you want empathy. Yeah, you can point to the fact that these guys are 18 to 23 years old, but these guys are also making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so in a way, the fans have a right to be upset about the fact that, these guys are getting paid to play, and they're upset about it, that they're not getting really anything out of it at this point. I mean, one win in the past 7 games, and it wasn't even at home. So why would the fans show up? Why would the fans, cheer, unless they're just pure loyalists, which there are some, but right now it's got to be really frustrating.
Yeah. And, he obviously did ask for empathy. I think he asked for empathy more for the players than himself, right? Like he understands that he is the guy making upwards of $3.5 million. So he is someone who is, I think, ready to accept a lot of that responsibility. But he also did, I want to read this part of it. Like I said, he told them coming into this game, his players, that they should expect to be booed. And I'll just read this part of what he said. Quote, "I told them we should expect to get booed if we're not playing well. You should expect it to be low energy. We've got to control what we can control. This is the reality. I said, I've got empathy for you, but I don't feel sorry for you, and you shouldn't be sorry for you. As young men becoming men, you can never feel sorry for yourself. You've got to fix it. You've got to work. You've got to buckle down. You've got to look yourself in the mirror, and we have to be honest and try to fix it. I've given you a really long-winded answer, but that's how I feel." End quote. And that's how Jeff Capel's press conference ended. Just, again, an acceptance of where this program is, the environment surrounding them, and I think also, an acceptance of how difficult it is at this point to try to pull Pitt out of that hole. It was honest, which sometimes can be refreshing, but I think it just made it made the reality of the situation for Pitt right now just kind of settle in a very real way, and that's kind of been the case really ever since that Louisville game.
And especially when you consider that, he does still have until the 29-30 season on his contract. We've talked about Pitt's financial issues and the struggles that it would be to buy out. And so if he's sitting here in 2026, essentially resigned to the fact he's still got 4 more years on this contract. And if they're not able to buy him out, really, what are fans, buying into at that point if he's resigned right now? And we can talk about his, 2026 recruiting class with, a lot of star talent, but he's had talented teams in the past and he hasn't been able to get them to get together. I mean, this is, probably the worst of it, at least since I've been covering the team or been around in Pittsburgh for the past 3 years, but it's just, there's just, like you said, it's just a lot of defeat. It feels like he thinks it's not fixable. And whether that's right now, just this team, or, year to year, I'm not sure at this point anymore, because there's just not a lot of optimism. And honestly, it's just very melancholy, and he comes across that way.
I think that's a good place as any to leave this video. That's what we've got for you guys to recap. Again, a deflating 81-72 loss to NC State for the Pitt Panthers. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to PG Pitt on YouTube so you don't miss any of our coverage of the rest of basketball season, the introduction of some new football players and coaches over the coming weeks, and make sure you follow all our written work at post-gazette.com. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.